In the gospel today, the Pharisees are trying to trip Jesus up again. They're trying to get him to either speak against the law or against himself. Jesus moves from a legal perspective in talking about marriage and goes to a theological perspective and reiterates what God created in the beginning, that man and woman should leave father and mother and cling to each other and become one flesh. And what God has joined together, no one should separate. Marriage is not just a legal contract, but it's a covenant, and that has a whole different relationship. It's a sacred union between two people who say that I will love you unconditionally and I will love you forever. It's a very strong and serious commitment. We know only too well that divorce is a huge problem in our society today. It's become so socially and legally acceptable and so easy to attain. And that's definitely a problem. But we must not judge. God alone is the judge. And that's where the scriptures today say the Lord is kind and merciful. He alone understands what goes on in the human heart. But there's still some confusion among people, even in the church, that if two people do get divorced for serious reasons and they do not remarry, that does not prevent them from receiving communion. I'm amazed that still there are some people who, just because they are divorced, feel they can't come to communion, and that's not true. It's only if they remarry again outside the church without the blessing of the church, then they separate themselves from communion. But even there, the church strongly recommends people who cannot receive communion to still come to Mass, to still pray, to still be a part of the community. And it's up to everyone in the community to welcome everybody and to encourage them. Like St. James says in the first reading, don't grumble against each other, but encourage them and be patient with them. And so there's a great lesson here to be learned. And marriage is a sacred union, but there are certainly times when it's just not a good match, when it's certainly something was wrong maybe from the beginning. That's where the annulment process comes in with the church, where the church can state that there was not a sacramental union because some essentials for marriage were not present. And that's a long process, and the church takes it very seriously. So today we hear Jesus, and he says so clearly, he reiterates what God did in Genesis, that the union of marriage is a sacred bond, and it cannot be broken if it's truly a valid marriage. And so we pray today for a deeper understanding of the gift of marriage and for people to persevere in marriage. There's so many young couples preparing for weddings this year, and they're all so happy and they're all so filled with a desire to spend the rest of their lives together. And we do our best to prepare them, and we do our best to encourage them to stay close to God. When two people come and kneel together at Mass every week, they're certainly strengthening their marriage. When two people come to the sacrament of penance on a regular basis and confess that they can be a more loving spouse, they're certainly asking God's grace to persevere in their marriage. And so the church God offers through the church much help to people in marriage. And we pray that the Lord will bless and sanctify couples in our parish that are preparing for marriage this year. Let us stand and offer our prayers and petitions.